if you guys don't get the directions for our assignments, watch the video for just that one piece. Or, you guys can always ask, like, hey, why is he still turning red? Some of you guys did do that. And I was able to say, oh, you guys forgot the parentheses. Or if you guys put the parentheses and it's still red, that means you probably switched your numbers. So there's reasons why you guys are getting, things red, but you shouldn't just go, it's fine. She's not going to really check it, because I am. So please check your stuff and follow directions and read directions and all of that stuff, or else you're going to make me mad.
But yeah, so 3 assignments due today: the All About Me, the week 1 notebook, and the pixel art. Okay. And if you were getting numbers turning red, then what you're going to want to do is probably go back and fix that. It was just the parentheses, the X coordinate, comma, and the Y coordinate, and close your parentheses. There shouldn't be any spaces in between any of those pieces. But other than that, there are, I don't think we talked about this, there are parent conferences coming up on March 23rd, which is next week on Tuesday. Parent conferences will be from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Other than that, I guess we'll get some more information.
I haven't been given any other information than that.
Okay.
So until then, no idea, guys. So once they tell me that, then I will let you guys know.
And days to the end of the semester, it seems like a lot of days, 83 days until the end of the semester, which includes Saturdays, Sundays, and Wednesdays. But remember, we only meet 4 times a week, so this number is actually a lot smaller than what it is. I think we said it's about like half if you take away the weekends and Wednesdays, so about 40, 50-ish. So make sure you're staying on track. Don't wait too long to turn in your assignments, because this time is going to fly by. It really does go by fast. When Dr. Brown first told me how fast it goes, I was like, no, there's no way. But I've already been with her for almost 8-9 weeks, and it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it was just yesterday. So time flies. All right. So that's it for our announcements. I'm going to go ahead and escape out of there. I am going to put the link to your week 2 notebook in the chat. So there we go. This is the link. If you go to the chat, the link for your week 2 notebook is in there. So you can click on that and it'll take you to the Classkick site and the week 2 notebook right away. But if you're in Google Classroom, another way you can get there is by clicking on classwork. Look for week 2, which is going to be right under your homeroom. If you look at week 2, you're going to want to go to that very last assignment here where it says week 2 notebook. Click on that. It'll open up and give you the Classkick link, and you can click on that there. Okay, very, very important, again, that you're logging in. If you log in, it will save your progress. Okay, and this week we have more than 2 pages. So if you're not logging in and you're typing in your name, well, at least you want to make sure you type in your name exactly the same every day that we work on this notebook. If you're not typing in your name exactly the same, or if you're not logging in, it won't save your work. And what will happen is that on the day you want to turn it in and you go back and you see, wait, I did page 1 or I did page 2. Why is it completely empty? It's empty because you're using either a different name or you didn't log in. So the one way to make sure that you do have all your work is to log in. Go ahead, Dr. Brown.
I just realized like I can just do that before, instead of like interrupting me like, hey, I want to talk about something.
Yeah.
I'm going to send all of you guys messages who I noticed is not logging in. So I can tell if you logged in or not. I'm going to send you guys a message letting you guys know you did not log in, so that you guys can log out. Because if like some of you guys were asking me what's the class code, notice how for Ms. Gomez, it already gives you a class code right away when you click on it. That means you're not doing it the proper way. So, or like you're not doing something right. So I'm going to send messages letting you guys know like, hey, you did not log in correctly, so that you guys can fix that mistake and log out, and then click on login and click on login with Google, and you're always logging in with your district email and password. All right. Or
Yeah,
else,
so
again, you're not gonna be able to go back each and every time.
yeah, so if you're using the link that we're giving you in the chat, or if you're clicking on the link from Google Classroom, you don't need a class code. It takes you directly to that assignment. All you would have to do is click on login, or if you're already logged in the app, it'll just automatically open up the notebook for you. So I have to type it in because if I go in on my account, then it's a teacher account and it'll just change everything in there for every student. And we don't want that to happen. So me and Dr. Brown are allowed to go ahead and type in our names, but you guys should be logging in. Again, this is only to make it easier on you. If you don't want to log in, okay. But if you lose your work, you're responsible for completing it. Yeah, you're responsible for completing it. So you're going to have to turn it in. And if you don't want to turn it in complete, you're going to miss out on points. And we do it all in class together. So shouldn't be too bad to have it completed. Okay, so this is what your week 2 notebook looks like. See here, it says 1 out of 5. That's because there's 5 pages in this notebook. For today, though, we're only working on this first page and page 2. Okay, so only 2 pages for today, which is why we won't be completely done with our notebook. So don't turn it in at the end of today unless you actually know how to complete every single page on your own. That's fine. You're more than welcome to go ahead, but if you don't know how to complete on your own, then you're gonna have to complete it with us. Okay, so today is actually just a little preview day of our slope. There isn't much that we're going to be doing other than just talking about a couple of definitions, getting some previews of formulas. What we will be focusing on today, and you don't have to highlight this, but I'm doing it just to show you, what we will be focusing on are the types of slopes. So our positive slope, our negative slope, our zero slope, and our undefined slope. So these are the 4 different slopes that we really want to talk a little bit more about and that you want to learn about. And it will also be coming up in your homework assignment for today. But
Okay,
the way
guys,
this works,
sorry,
go ahead.
one more time. Some of you guys are still sending me messages about the class code. And some of you guys are still telling me, yes, I am letting you know that you are not logged in. Do you have to log in? Like I said, no, you don't. However, you need to make sure that you type in your name the exact same way each and every time, or else you're going, like, if you like have to restart your page, I will expect you guys to restart that entire notebook each and every time. And then if you guys are having, like, if you need a class code, that means you did not click on the link correctly. So click on that link that wait, I think it's that link. Click on that link and it'll send you guys straight to that, and click on log in. Do not click on, do not type in your name. If you're typing in your name, then that means you're doing it wrong. You should be logging in with your district email and password through Google, right? If it doesn't walk you guys through that, then that means you're doing it wrong. We're trying to make you guys like have issues. Okay, if you're having the error issue, I saw that some people were posting about that. Try it the other way with just typing in your name and just like put in like your first name, no spaces, just put first name with your last initial, like, you know, Doc B, no spaces or whatever. And then that should fix the error issue. If it still is giving you that, then take a screenshot of what's going on right now. It should fix itself. ClassKick every now and then has some weird glitches, but you guys can always take a screenshot of her final page and then go back in a little bit. It's not like I'm grading it today. And then just move the pieces. It's never going to take you guys that much time. So yeah, if some of you guys are saying that you're getting the error message, see if it still gives you guys that error message if you guys type in your name. So some of
you guys on the app? Are they on the app or
are you guys clicking on the app, or are you guys just going on Chrome? They're saying the app, and you're still getting that
Maybe they
Yes,
can
it'll
double
take you to
tap and
Google
close it.
Classroom. It'll
Uh-huh.
take you to Google Classroom and then it'll send you to ClassKick. Yeah, they're having issues with that part. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay, then just do it however it's working. However, like I said, when it comes to typing in your name, like type in your first name with the last initial so that it doesn't, like, you know how to spell your, like, I hope you know how to spell your name. Sometimes we go weird and we don't spell it correctly. But again, if you're having any issues, like if it gives you an error message, that's fine. Follow along with Ms. Gomez for right now, and then just keep trying to like refresh it and reload. I see a lot of you guys like switching out and in, which is totally fine. Like I see more of you guys switching over. Like Sam, you're fine. Alexis, you're fine. Lizette, you're fine. Catherine, you're fine. Tony, you're fine. Oh, sorry, Tonio, you're fine. But like the others, I'm seeing that you guys are still on the basic. That's fine for right now. I just want you guys to eventually switch over and log in. If not, then I just want to make sure that it's easy for you guys to not have to do this over and over and over again. So whatever is the
So that it
easiest
saves
way
it.
for you guys, then do it that way. Just don't forget how you guys are logging in. And again, you guys can always do this later when we're done going through everything.
Yeah, I'll let you guys take screenshots as soon as everything should be completed. But hopefully it starts working out. It should eventually work, because last quarter we use ClassKick almost every day, and there were some glitches here and there for some students, and that has a lot to do with connection. But eventually, if you refresh, or if you either double tap and close the app completely and then come back to it, sometimes some of those glitches are fixed. But yes, let us know if you're ever experiencing anything, and we'll let you just take screenshots at the end. All right, so today we are just looking at slope. We're not going to be doing a lot of actual work. We're just defining a couple of things, but we will be looking at our types of slope a little more. But if you look at this little picture here, it's actually a really good representation of what slope is. So think of a mountain. See, we either have to go up a mountain and then we have to come down the mountain. So when we talk about slope, these mountain references or these other little tricks we talk about will be very helpful. So I'm going to go over here and start the presentation for your notes. So this is our second day of our linear functions unit, and we are actually diving a little deeper to slope just by defining some terms. Your notes are pretty interesting. If we were in the traditional classroom, then we'd actually be cutting out in some of these broken lines so that we could open up a little flap, and right underneath each of these questions, you'd see the response or the answer to it. But it's going to look a little different on our ClassKick side. We have the questions on page 1, and then we have the answers to each of these boxes on page 2. So it's like they'd be laying on top of each other if we were in the actual classroom. So right now we're going to be looking at the left side of your notebook. On the left side of that first page, you see the question, what is the definition of slope? So what is slope? Well, slope is just the steepness of a straight line. So steepness just means how sharp is it going up? How sharp is it coming down? We can actually measure that. So for now, we're just defining it, but in the next couple of days, we'll see how we can measure the actual steepness of a line. So if we go over to your ClassKick notebook, you'll notice that's the first question you have here on page 1. But if we go over to page 2, there's an actual square that is basically in the exact same position, just on the other page here of where that question was. And this is the answer. So this answer has already been set there for you. You don't have to do anything with it. That definition is already there. But if you go down to the very bottom, and even if I zoom out actually, these here, some of these boxes are blank. Some of these graphs don't have anything on them. But by the end of today, all of these pieces that are down here will be dragged to the correct spot. So that's how you'll be completing your notes. Okay, so let's move on. That's too far from, there we go. All right, so if you're looking at the steepness of a straight line, that's finding slope. And I'm gonna go back to your class kick notes really quickly here. Looking at this picture is really helpful. So when we're talking about steepness, we're talking about basically like the sharpness of a line. So if we're looking at this mountain here, this line here that I just made, let me turn it a different color. There we go. And so you can see it, I can increase, there we go, that thickness there. Okay, so this line here is going up. That's getting us up the mountain. Okay, so this line here, it has some steepness to it. And also, if you see that little man there, he's coming down this way in this direction. Okay, this is also going to be, this is, well, we'll get into it, but this will be a negative slope if you're coming down. But technically, when we have graphs, we can actually measure how the steepness of this line. So when you're thinking of slope, thinking about a line that's either inclining up or inclining down, and there's some other examples too. So there are different methods for us to determine slope, and that's right here. What are some methods we can use to determine slope? We're gonna get a little preview of all of these today. Are you expected to know all of these by the end of today? No, okay. This week, we're gonna focus a lot on a graph, but we wanna give you a little preview of what's to come. Let me get my laser. Okay, so the first method that's on here for how to find slope is using the slope formula. Some of you guys might have already worked with slope and the slope formula in 8th grade, but perhaps when we went into lockdown, some of you were either in the middle of this or starting it or didn't even get to it. So this could be a lot of review for you guys still, but maybe for some, you guys never got a chance to look at it. So the slope formula might be something you're familiar with. If you're not, we're going to be talking about it today. But as the days come, I think by next week, we will actually work more with the slope formula. So by then you'll want to be more familiar with it. The next method here that we use to find slope is the rise over run. And I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this if you guys were working on slope last year. But if not, this is a really easy trick for us to remember slope, especially when we're working with a graph. You should also be able to find slope from a table, and you should also be able to find slope from a graph. So if you go over to page 2, that box there is empty. So we're going to have to click on the different types of slope, which is here, the slope formula, rise over run, table. You're going to want to take that piece over to the blank on the left side. So this piece should go in that second box on the left side. Give you guys some time to drag it to the correct spot. If you're not able to follow along with this yet, that's okay. I'll let you take a screenshot at the end. All right, moving on. So now that you know that there are different methods to find slope, and we talked about the slope formula, we're actually going to give you the slope formula here. So what is the slope formula? The slope formula looks like this. M is equal to y2 minus y1. All of that will be divided by x2 minus x1. So just subtracting your y's and dividing that by the subtraction of your x's. Do we expect you to remember this today just by looking at it at once? Yes. No, I'm just kidding. No, you don't have to know this yet. You probably won't even know how to use it today, but that's okay. You don't have to know it by today. But I'll explain it really quickly. On Friday, we were talking about points, our coordinates. We have 2 numbers in a coordinate, and that's our x coordinate and our y coordinate. If we ever want to use the slope formula to find slope, we're going to be using this when we have 2 points. Between 2 points, we always can have a line and we can determine the slope. So if we were to have 2 points, you'd have an x coordinate and a y coordinate for the first point, an x coordinate and a y coordinate for the second point. So see these little numbers here? Those are just to let you know what x coordinate and what y coordinate we have. So when you're looking at the first point, the x coordinate would have a little 1 here because we say, oh, the first x. If we have a little 1 right next to our y, we're talking about the first y. So for the first point, that's the first x coordinate and that's the first y coordinate. If it sounds confusing, that's okay. It's not supposed to make that much sense today, so don't worry too much. The second point means we have another x coordinate and another y coordinate, so we would just say, oh, this is the second x coordinate and this is the second y coordinate. And if you notice here, they're just being subtracted. The second coordinate, y coordinate here, is going to be subtracted by your first y coordinate. So these things are just being plugged in. So x, whatever you have for your second x coordinate, we would plug it in there. Whatever you have for your first x coordinate, we would just plug it in there. All right, let's go on over to, oh, mine disappeared. See, this is what we mean by sometimes when Classkick is a little crazy. Notice how I had that little piece there. It went away, but hopefully it's still down here, and it is down here. It's haunted.
Well, sometimes I think it's also like it didn't upload fast enough or something like that.
I'm too fast for it. Just kidding. All right, so I put that piece back in there, but the piece we are dragging right now is your slope formula. That m is equal to y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So that is our slope formula. We will be working with this a little more next week, so you'll see how it works a little better. But next, I am going to give you a little example of what's to come still. So how would we use that formula correctly? So the next box here says determine the slope given 2 points. So remember we talked about that slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is the situation you would use it in when you are given 2 points and they're asking you to find the slope. So this is your first point. So this is our first x coordinate. That's our first y coordinate. This is your second point. This would be our second x coordinate and our second y coordinate. So how do we use the formula to find the slope for these 2 points? Well, you would just plug them into your formula. Don't worry if it looks too confusing. We're not expecting you to be able to do this today. It's just a preview. So this is our first x. This is our first y. This is our second x. This is our second y. All we would be doing is using the formula and plugging those two in. The first number should be y2. So see, that was just plugged in there. We're supposed to subtract that by the first y coordinate, which is 3 there. They were just plugged in. Down here, we're subtracting our x's. x2 was supposed to be the first one you plugged in here. And then x1, we plug in back here. Okay, so in this case, all you would have to do is subtract them, which is -1 minus 3. That's a -4. 4 minus a -2. Anytime you have double negatives, this turns into a positive. So this is just 4 plus 2, which is a +6. Look at this fraction here. This fraction here is not in simplest form, so we would have to simplify this fraction. To simplify a fraction, all you have to do is divide both top and bottom by the same number. In this case, both of these can be divided by 2, and we get that the slope of these 2 points, the slope of the line that has these 2 points, is -2 over 3. Again, this might be a lot at once, but don't worry. Just to preview again, you're not expected to know this. But what I do want you to notice is that our slope is in the form of a fraction. Your slope, whether we're looking at it in a table, if we're looking at it in a graph, if we're using 2 points like this, it should always be written as a fraction. We do not want to turn this fraction into a decimal. Decimals for slopes are not going to help us in the future. In the future, if we have a fraction, it'll help us a lot in the equation and when it comes to us graphing a line. So always, always keep your slope as a fraction. You do not need to turn it into a decimal. Okay, let's go on over to our Classkick side. Let's carry that piece over. We had 2 points and we plugged them into the slope formula. And that slope formula gave us -2/3 as the slope for those 2 points. So you're just dragging that piece over. All right. Here we go. So we're going to keep going. And we're going to see how do we determine the slope of the following graph. Okay, so last week on Friday, we focused on finding points. And the reason why we wanted to make sure you were finding points correctly is because when we work with these graphs and you're trying to find the slope, you need to pick 2 points on this line. And from those 2 points on this line, we're going to be finding the slope using that famous rise over run. So on this line has an infinite number of points here. This is a point, but is that a point we want to use? No, because it's actually going to be some type of decimal. And we don't really want to work with decimals. I don't. So try to pick points that are basically perfect little corners on your boxes here. So if I look at this point here, it forms a perfect corner of those 4 boxes, which is actually just a whole a point with whole numbers. So I can easily find the coordinate to that point if I just look at the x coordinate here and the y coordinate there. So you always want to look at those perfect little corners of these boxes. Those are points that are going to be pretty easy to work with. So if I move along this line here, this also has a point here that I can easily work with. And if I keep moving along here, there's another perfect corner. That point will be very helpful there. So if we want to find the slope of a graph, some of you might remember this, you look for rise over run. So they're kind of like directions. How do I go from this point here to this point here? What do I have to do? Well, I can go up here, up 1. So that would be in the positive direction. So that's a positive 1. And then I would have to go to the right 3 units. So I'm counting these 1, 2, 3, which would be 3 in the positive direction. So to find slope of a graph, you just want to look for rise over run. How do I get from one point to another? By going up or down, left or right. So you use any 2 points on the line and find rise over run. In this case, we went up 1 and over 3. So that slope would be 1/3. All right, so you guys want to come on over, look for the piece that had the rise over run and 1/3, which is right here. And you just bring it up to the correct spot and lay it on top there. So this here is actually what we will be working on this whole week, is making sure you know how to find slope, rise over run correctly. Now, it seems fairly simple, but we can make a lot of mistakes if we're not paying attention to positives, negatives, and directions we're going in. All right, so at this point, our left side is pretty much all filled out. If you're following along with us, give me a thumbs up if you're okay here. Give me a clap if you would like more time to bring these pieces over. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to this piece here, the bottom. So the bottom and the bottom right, we're going to see how do we find slope of a table. When you look at this table, notice there's an X value or an X here and a Y here. That's because these are ordered pairs as well. So a table also shows you points. It shows you an X coordinate and it shows you a y coordinate. So technically, you can also use the slope formula. When we have 2 points, we use the slope formula, and you can pick any of these 2 points for your slope formula. But here's the thing, these are pairs, so you don't want to jump around and say, well, if I use 120 for my y, then I'll use 10 for x. You can't do that. Okay, you can't jump around and pick one or the other. They have to be together as a pair. So in this case, 20 and 120 are a pair. Then this means you have to use this x, this 20 as your x, and this 120 as your y. But all you would have to do is pick 2 points and plug it into your formula. So this is what it would look like. Okay, if you're finding your slope, you're basically just looking, how are my y's changing and how are my x's changing? So technically we would just pick 2 points and subtract them again. So when you look at this formula, I can tell that they picked 0.040, and they also used 10 and 80. This was your first x, this is your first y because it's the first point. This is your second x, and this is your second y because that is the second point. And all they did was plug it into the formula. 80 here, subtracted by 40 gives us 40. 10 subtracted by 0, 10 subtracted by 0 is just 10. Look at this fraction here. It's not simplified. We can still simplify it. And notice the number on top is way bigger than the bottom. Okay, so it's not in simplest form. So we could actually simplify this and just think, okay, 40 divided by 10 is equal to 4. So remember I said your slope should always be a fraction, okay, unless we have a whole number. It could be a fraction or it could be just a whole number, but we don't want to write it in decimals. Okay, let's go on over to your Classkick side. Bring that piece in for your table and lay it right on top of that. It's just showing you how we would use the slope formula to find the slope of a table. But we'll be looking at methods as the weeks come. All right, so we're going to get into the types of slope, which at this point, this is going to be really helpful for your homework. There's also a video in your homework that's going to help you determine if something's a positive slope, negative slope, undefined, or zero slope. But we're going to give you a couple of other tricks here that will help you determine the types of slope. All right, so we're going to be looking at our first kind of slope, which is the undefined slope. Some of you are familiar with this word, some of you might not, but what does an undefined slope look like? That is a line that goes straight up and down. Okay, so remember, finding slope of a graph, of a line that's on a graph, we could use rise over run. Okay, so rising means we're either going up or we're coming down. Running means we're moving left and we're moving right. But if you look at this line is just continuously going up. We're not going anywhere to the right. We're not going anywhere to the left. So a line that is going continuously up or down like this is an undefined slope. And during last period, Dr. Brown gave us a little cool trick that we can use to remember undefined slope. And that's when you think about Spider-Man. So Spider-Man is able to go up buildings, right? He can attach himself to the building and climb up and down. But us as humans, we can't. We'd fall off. We'd fall off the building and you'd come crashing down on the ground. So an undefined slope, think about Spider-Man. Spider-Man is able to go up a building and we're not. So let's go back to your Classkick side. Bring over that undefined slope here. Or even think about you trying to climb up a building attaching yourself to it like Spider-Man, and you're actually just gonna slide off. All right, so we're gonna take a look at the other types of slope we have, the positive slope and the negative slope. So what does a positive slope look like? That looks like a line that is going up. Now, here's the thing, whenever you're looking at graphs, I like to tell students to always read a graph from left to right. Okay, so here's the left side. If you follow, you can follow it with your finger. If you follow this line from the left side to the right side, you notice your finger is going upwards. So a positive slope means we're going up, we're getting bigger. Think about a mountain. If we start off here flat on the ground and we're trying to drive up the mountain, you're getting higher and higher. So your elevation is growing. You're getting higher off the ground. It's like getting taller. So that's a bigger number. So if we're going up, we say positive slope. Here's another trick that's also very helpful. If I can get my pen, here we go. Blue, okay. Another trick that's really helpful and that a lot of students seem to like last quarter is actually writing the word slope on your line. So if I want to write slope on my line, I'd start off with the S, and then I'd write L, O, P, and E. When you look at that word slope, okay, the letters are going upwards. So when you write your slope and you see that it's going up, then that's a positive slope. Also, think of a little person here. If they're going up this line, they're technically moving in an uphill direction. All right, so let's go back to your class kick sign. Get that positive slope picture and bring it right up to the top. But what I do want you guys to do, just to get in the habit of it, is take your pencil, pick any color you want. In this case, I'll pick blue. Okay, and actually write out the word slope on that line. And use your magnifying glasses again to zoom in, or if you want to do the actual pinch, that's okay too. But if you write the word slope, it's going upwards. These are very helpful to determining the difference between slope, positive slope, negative slope, undefined, and zero slope. So think that's going up a mountain, positive. The opposite, which is the negative slope, would mean we're coming down the mountain. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to what does a negative slope look like. A negative slope looks like a line that is going down. So again, start from the left side, which would be here on the left. If I'm going towards the right direction, notice the movement I'm making. I'm going downwards. So it's like a little person going down the slide here. Okay. What's actually really helpful, and this is where you'll see the difference, is what happens if I write the word slope on that line. If I write the word slope on this line, notice every letter seems to be coming down. It's slanted downwards. Here it's slanted going up, here it's slanted going down. So look at these differences in the word slopes. Like this is actually something you can see a little more visually. So this is how you know if you have a positive or negative slope. Let's go over to your class kick side. Let's drag over the correct piece for our negative slope. Okay, grab your pencil and write that word slope on there for me. See, the word is going down, so we know that is a negative slope. So why is it important that we're able to tell the difference between a positive slope and a negative slope? That's because when we actually get to measuring and actually get to giving these slopes or steepness levels a number, an actual number, our final answer, remember I said it should be in a fraction, our final fraction should either be positive or have a negative sign next to it. So this is a way to check yourself. If you think you're done and you wrote down the slope in the next coming days, you always want to go back and ask yourself, should my fraction be positive or should my fraction be negative? If you look at the way your line is leaning or actually inclining, then you can tell if it should be positive or negative. Write the word slope on it. If it's going upwards, that fraction should be positive. If it's going downwards, that fraction needs to be negative. All right, give me a thumbs up if you guys are okay there. Give me a clap if you need some more time to write those two words slopes on there. All right, thank you guys. All right, we're almost done and we'll get to explaining your homework. Let me go back here. The last type of slope you're going to look at is the zero slope. What does this zero slope look like? That looks like a line that goes from left to right, just flat, a horizontal line. And if I were to go on here and actually write the word slope, then that's just the normal, regular way that we actually write words from left to right on a straight line. So a slope here that has a zero slope, you'll see your word just like regular, not slanted upwards, not slanted downwards. So zero slope just has a flat line. The word flat line always reminds me of like those doctor shows. Like,
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. You know, when your heartbeat's reading beep, 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 and then beep, 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 because you're crashing, and then you're dead. Zero heartbeat, you're dead. No, just kidding. That's not very nice for the morning. Okay, let's go back to your class kick. Let's drag that piece over, zero slope. Over here. Use your pencil and write the word slope. Notice the difference. These two are slanted, one's going up, one's going down. This is just our normal, usual way of writing. And what I do want to show you here is if I try to write the word slope, I would have to stack them on top of each other like this. They'd kind of slide off that line. So that's not even, I mean, some of you can read up and down, but that's not usually the way we would write. So the word slope is going to be really helpful if you write it on top. Okay, at this point, we're done with this page. What I'm going to do is zoom out for those students that were not able to follow along with this, and I'll let you take a screenshot of this now. Use your screenshot so that you can complete your notes on your own, either when we're done with Zoom today or when you're completely done with school. But this is how it should look once it's completed. Let me tell you again, we're not done with this week's notebook. There are more pages there. So in the following days, we'll work through the next coming pages. So don't turn in your notebook unless you are super awesome, which you guys are all awesome, but unless you're like able to do all of this on your own, then you can go ahead and do all of it on your own and just turn it in. But we're not requiring you to turn it in today. All right, give me a thumbs up if you're good here. Give me a clap if you need more time. Thank you guys. I don't see any claps. All right, so again, I don't expect you to remember any of these things just yet, but what you do want to be able to do is determine the different types of slope. If you see a graph, is this a positive slope? Is that a negative slope? Is it a zero slope, or is it an undefined slope? That's what your homework is going to be all about today. So I'm going to go ahead and close this here, your notebook, and I'm going to show you what your homework looks like. So if you are in Google Classroom, you'll want to go to classwork and go, oh, I think for you guys, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th option down. You'll want to click on that, or wherever you see your week 2 notebook, go up 1 option there, and that's your homework. But, ooh, somebody had already turned it in. Ooh, good job. I'm going to copy the link and put it right in the chat for you guys. If you want to click on that, it'll take you to today's homework, and we are going to explain this a little bit. So when you click on this, it gives you a Google Slides. And this Google Slides is like an interactive homework. When you go to the different pages here, notice all of these have a different word up here: positive slope, negative slope, zero slope, and undefined slope. As you move through the pages, you're trying to see what graphs show you a positive slope here, what graphs show you a negative slope on that 3rd slide, what graphs show you a zero slope on this 4th slide, and what graphs show you an undefined slope. We'll look at the positive slope really quickly. It says your directions here. Place a green check mark, so you can actually click on these check marks and drag them wherever they belong, well, to their correct spot. Place a green check mark on the graphs that have a positive slope. Place a red X on any graph that does not have, that is not positive. Good job. All right, so all you would have to do is, again, use the word slope and see if it's going upwards or downwards. There's also another method that she explains to you guys. She's from Math on Demand. She's pretty cool. She explains a different method. I unfortunately can't play the sound. Well, you won't, if I play the video, you won't hear the sound. But I don't know if Doc Brown just wants to play a little bit of it just so you see how she explains it, or, yeah, I mean, we can do without it too. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's up to you. But
what time
let me just show a little bit of it.
Okay.
I think I need a.
You can't, if you do want to try the word slope on here, oops. If you do want to try writing the word slope on here, Dr. Brown showed the other group how you could do that. If you,
yeah, thank you. I forgot.
And I thought that was really helpful. So I want to make sure they know. So if you click on the text box, you can just make a text box on here. If it lets me, which I don't think it wants to.
And some of you guys were saying that the video was too loud and you guys couldn't hear me. Honestly, I didn't say anything that the video wasn't saying. It was just like I said, he draws a little guy and I write the word slope. And I think like what she's showing you right now, I think that's more helpful than you guys drawing the little guy, but that's about it.
What's cool is that you only have to type the word slope once, and then you basically use that word everywhere. You carry it over. So take a look here. Here's the word slope. If I want to make sure it lays on that line, I can use that little dot and rotate it in any direction here. So if I want to rotate it this way, see, your word slope is going down. So that would not be a positive slope. So you would carry that X over. Click on that word slope. And what you can do is actually just write your word slope or rotate it so that it's going upwards and match it to see where is that word going, matching a line that's going upwards. Doesn't match there, doesn't match there. Bring it over here. Oh, it's not perfect, but it does go upwards. So that's where you would click on a check mark to show this is a positive slope. So that's another trick you can use to determine the difference between positives, negatives, zero, and undefined. But that's it there for your homework. This is today's homework, but it's not due again until Monday. But it's not something that's going to take you forever. So if you have time, I would just get it over with today. There's even a video if you're still not quite sure or you want to double check, use the video. It'll help you determine whether or not you're on the right track. But that would be it for today's homework. Make sure you complete your notes if we're not able to complete them with us. You have the screenshot. I'll go back to it. Oh, but I'm not sharing. Oh, actually, everybody gave me a thumbs up, so I know you were okay with that. So, but that's basically it for today. Remember, if you're still confused about the types of slope, you could go back into your homeroom and click on the link that said Slope Dude. And that also, oh, okay, I'll go there. There's another video in our homeroom that was called Slope Dude. All he's doing is basically using the skiing example where he's going up a mountain. Again, going up a mountain, like if you're actually hiking, is going to take a lot of work. So he's kind of going like positive. I think I'm explaining the right video. I remember you saying something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're going up this line, it's going to take you, it's going to be a little strenuous. So you're going to be going puffing a lot, and that is a puh sound for positive. Then once you get to the top of the mountain, he just gets to ski down. He goes nice, and that's N, nice for negative. And then, oh yeah, the zero slope, he doesn't get to ski going down. He doesn't have any speed. So he says zero fun because
this
just
is
having
zero fun because he's working so hard.
All right, for those of you that wanted a screenshot, there it is. That's how it should look. But other than that, that's it for today's class. We will see you tomorrow, same time, and we'll be working with slope from a graph. So you don't want to be late tomorrow. You don't want to miss out on how to actually find slope.
But don't forget to do your exit ticket, guys. It's already available. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yes, Alexis, that's it.